that resides in the world of data analysis. At the end of the session tonight, I'm going to give us um, the link to his social media account, especially his LinkedIn. So you can go and see the wonderful and amazing things that he has been doing, he's doing, and he's set to do in the world of data analysis. Like I said, he's someone that I admire so much. I love to hear him speak because for every conversation you indulge him in, there is something you're going home with. So I want to employ us to pay attention. If you need to take down notes, please take down notes. Ensure that the 30, 40 minutes that we are going to be spending together is going to be worth it. And then not just what we hear tonight, it's also important we take action as well. So there are some action points. There is this light bulb moment you're going to get. I can assure you that there is this inspiration, there is this fire in your heart, and everything combined is going to happen here tonight. So I want to implore you to not just listen, but then take notes, action points, things you're going to do going forward. And for those of us that have always wanted to learn data analysis, I believe you're going to get one or two reasons why you should explore that option. Okay, so we're going to be going right into what we have for tonight. I want to welcome our speaker once again. I can go on and on to say a lot about him because he has a lot. He's a senior software um, head of department at Speedlink High Tech Solution. He's a data analyst, proficient in Excel, Power BI, SQL, Python. You can mention a lot of those tools, and he's doing so well, like I said. And we'll be having him to speak to us tonight on data to decisions, the role of data analysis in decision making. Please, I wanted to say with a standing ovation, but then we are not in a physical meeting. If your hands are not too busy, I would love to see those emojis, um, those stickers. Let me know that you're excited. You can't wait to delve into what we have tonight. You can't wait to hear our speakers speak to us. You can't wait to learn. You can't wait to relearn. You can't wait to be inspired. And you can't wait. You can't wait. You can't wait. Let me see those emojis. Let me see those emojis as our speaker is ready for us. And here's another thing: if you have questions too that you've had in your heart for a long time to ask, please, this is the best time. Okay, so I'm going to be giving the mic to our speaker. You're welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to have you here with us. You're welcome, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Queenette. Please confirm you can hear me. Confirm you can hear me.
Yes, please. Loud and clear, sir.
Oh, amazing, amazing, amazing. All right, so I'm just going to go straight up to the business of the day, right? Um, I don't hope to take much of our time because I know tomorrow is church, right? And so we need to just get down to business. All right. So when I got the topic to speak on, right? I had to have a rethink. How do I really convey the message, all right, to the viewers, all right? And so that's why I had to coin the topic a little bit to understanding the concept and becoming a pro in data analytics. All right. So I hope that in the next couple of minutes, as time would permit us, right, we're going to do justice to that. All right. So let's get started. So sorry, my slides should move. Okay. So I'm just going to skip this. Queenette has done some uh, brief portfolio about who I am. So okay, so this is what if time permits us, this is what we hope to achieve in the next couple of minutes. We'll do a bit of introduction, which Madam Queenette has done already, and then we'll also look at data literacy, And then we're going to look at data analytics and data analysis, because at some point, a lot of persons try to, misconceptualize the both of them, right? So we're going to see how we can, knock that off. All right. And then we also going to see data analytics versus statistics. Data analytics versus statistics. And then we'll go into data insights, categories of data analytics. And then there's that question, can I actually thrive, as a data analyst, right? So, and then, of course, my little gift from me to you would be the perfect roadmap, how it worked for me. And I'm sure if you put, your due diligence, it would also work for you. All right. Because of time, I don't know. Okay. But I really would love to, get some a bit of feedback from our viewers. What do you hope to achieve from this class, right? But because of time again, I'm just going to skip that part, and I'll skip this too. And then there's this quote I love to make use of very, very well. All right, it's by Brian Herbert, and he says the capacity to learn is a gift. All right, that's the gift that has been given to you. However, the ability to actually learn is a skill, right? Sorry, can you hear me? Queen, please, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, yes, please. Yes, sir. Loud and clear, sir.
Sorry, hello, can you? Hello, hello, what's going on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir. Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, sorry about that. So I was saying the capacity to learn is a gift, the ability to learn is a skill, and then of course the willingness. I'm getting a call back I don't want, and it's making me. Sorry, please. I need to quickly sort something, cause
Okay, sir. No problem, sir.
mic in, mic in, mic output. So sorry about this. Please, I need to. Uh, mic isn't going in. Where is that? Hello, 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 hello. Okay, I guess we'll just go ahead. Please confirm again you can hear me. Okay, okay. All right, perfect. Okay, so moving on. Um, I guess I would just have to. Okay, so I'm gonna skip this. Yeah, data literacy. So, um, what is data actually? What is data? What is data? So, in a layman term, data is anything you see. Yeah, data is anything your eyes can actually see. That is data. I think that again. Data is anything your eyes can see. If you're seeing, if what is in your front now is, for me, what is in my front is actually a laptop, that is data. And so if I'm asked the question, what is in my front? The response to that question should be, what is in my front is a laptop. All right. the okay, 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 okay. So um data is everything, just like I wrote here. Data is everything and anything. In elementary school, they'll tell you that data is raw facts, and then they'll go further ahead to tell you that information is processed data or processed raw facts. All right, and so, but literacy rather refers to the acts or the ability to read, understand, analyze, and communicate data effectively. That is data literacy. Just like when you say, oh, somebody is illiterate or somebody is an illiterate, it means that when you say somebody is illiterate, it means the person is able to read, understand, and write and communicate as well. All right. So the same thing happens here in data literacy. Data literacy refers to the ability to read, the ability to understand, the ability to analyze, and also communicate data effectively. So if you're missing any of these components, it doesn't mean you are a data literate. If you know how to read data, but you don't know how to analyze data, you're not a data literate. If you know how to read, you know how to understand, you know how to analyze, but you don't know how to communicate data effectively, hello, you are not a data literate. All right. And so in data literacy, the things you're going to be looking at, you want to wrap your head around is from data generation to data structure to data storage to data analysis and what have you, and then statistics as well as data driven decision makings. All right. And so you want to this is the whole essence. This is the whole essence of data literacy. All right. And so moving on. Now, what is data generation? Data generation. I don't know if I can, Queen, if you could help me. I'd love to. I'd love to know, what our viewers can see if they can type in the chat box. What data can you see? I'm not seeing that screen at the moment, but if they can type on the chat box, what data can you see? I just want to have that bit of feedback. It would help me. What data can you see? Is anybody typing? What data can you see? What data can you see? Anybody? 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 Anybody there? Anybody? What data can you see? Okay, I would just assume probably people are not there. Okay, so what I can see from my screen here, I can see people walking. I can see keke. I can see some persons selling apples. I can see some persons hawking. I can see persons crossing the road. Some persons are just standing by the roadside. Now, what we have just done is data generation. I have just generated data. I have told people, oh, okay, people are walking, people are trying to buy and sell, people are trying to cross the road. All of that is data generation. Now, when you have generated data, what next do you do? That data that has been generated, it needs to be stored somewhere. Remember, the theme of this course, the theme of this course, or rather of this webinar, says data to decisions. Now, before the data becomes decision, it has to go through processes. And the first process is just like the first process we just mentioned is what? Data generation. And now, from data generation, that data generation, or that data that has been generated, needs to be stored somewhere. It needs to be stored. All right. So that takes us to what? Data storage. All right. And so we have two bases of, data sources. We have two basic data sources, two types of data sources. Now, the first is the on premise, and then the next is what? On cloud. Now, take for example, you're in a house and you want to get water, so you get a probably a butter or a bucket, a big bucket, and you put in your room. Now, what that means is whenever you want to get water, or whenever anybody needs to get water, the person needs to come where into your room to get what the water, right? Now, what that has done is that water, it's in a premise, it's in a location, and for anybody to have access to that water, or for anybody to have access to that data, the person needs to be in that location, in your room where the bucket of water is. Now, let's move over to cloud. That same water now, you have decided to upgrade. Instead of just storing water in your room, you decide to get a borehole. You decide to, get a borehole and put an overhead tank. So now, in essence, when that borehole pipe now gets connected to every, room in the house. Now, for people to get water in the kitchen, they don't need to come to your room. They don't need to go to probably the parlor or something. They just need to use the tap anywhere in the house. Now, that is what the cloud type of data source means. That, for example, if I work on a file, maybe on Microsoft Word, or a file that is offline, and I save it on my system, if you don't have access to my system, you won't have access to that particular file. However, if I save that file on a Google Cloud, or on a OneDrive, on a Google Drive, as the case may be, all I need to do is give you what? The link to that drive, and anywhere you are in the world, you'll be able to access that file. Alright? So remember my illustration. On premise means you just have a bucket of water in a particular room, and for you to have access to it, you must go to that particular room. However, if you want to have access to water everywhere, anywhere you are in a particular house, then you get a borehole and then you connect pipes around the house. All right, and so that is an illustration of what data sources, the two types of data sources we have: on premise and on the cloud. Right, and so moving on. Now we have a plethora of data storages. Now there's a thin line between data storage and data sources. At the point where it's a data storage is the point where the data is being stored. However, when you now want to analyze such data that is being stored, that storage facility no longer becomes a store. It now becomes a what? A source. So you are trying to fetch data from the source, which initially was a storage facility. And so, like I made mention, we have a plethora of storage facilities that where you can store data, the likes of your Excel, Access, Ocumetical, Spark, and the likes. In fact, let's not even go far. I'm sure a majority of us here we use WhatsApp. I'm sure if you go back way back last 2 years, last 3 years, you will see a document that you sent to someone 2 years ago, still on your WhatsApp. WhatsApp in that instance, it's now a storage facility. And so at a point where you now want to go and quickly fetch that data you sent over 3 years ago, that WhatsApp now becomes a what? A data source. All right? And so moving on, now that we have understood data generation, we have understood data storage, we've also understood data sources. The next thing we want to try and understand is data structure. Because for those data to be properly kept, properly stored, for example, just take a look. You are a farmer. You have a yam barn. You know how they stack those yam in stacks. If you don't stack them in that particular order, you would end up probably some of the yams will go bad because they were not stored properly. So the farmer has to do what? Properly structure them. So if you don't have a proper structure to your data, you would end up analyzing a messy data which will give you a messy result. So remember, there is a flow from data generation to data what? data storage, and then now we now have data what? Structure. Data structure. Now we have basically three types of data structures. We have the structured data, we have semi-structured data, and then we have unstructured data. Now I'm going to take my time to, you know, to get this, you know, on that way, to so that you can understand what is mean. Now, structured files are files with actual rows and headers. If you look at this picture here on the screen, you would see that we have um okay, sorry, I wasn't seeing my screen again. Okay, so if you look at the screen you're currently viewing, right, you would notice that this, for the structured data set, you have the first column, the region, and then you have the next column, the LOB. Then you have the next column, the year. The next column, you have it as revenue. Now, these are structured in such a way that all the types of data are structured in their respective columns, in rows and headers. So these are structured data. So the likes of Excel, probably, and some databases, these are how, you know, they are actually structured. However, we have some semi-structured data sets. Now, semi-structured files are files that they are not in rows and they are not in columns. Now, for example, if you look at this, you will see it looks like it makes sense, because it says, the first thing here, it says platform is equals to Android, favorite foods is noodle, language is you know, CA, that's Canadian English, right? So you can see this is, they are in groups. This is a group. Then the next group, you have platform, iOS, favorite food, pasta, you know, so they are in groups. However, because they are not in rows and columns, we cannot call them structured data. So we prefer to call them, since they follow a certain pattern, we can rather call them semi-structured files. And for example of this kind of files are files, I'm sure you must have heard of JSON files. Right, that's JSON. It stands for JavaScript Object Notations. Right, so these are the way they are actually stored. You know, and these are probably when you're trying to query data from the web, data formats, when you are querying data from the web. This is the way it is going to come through. All right, so this is types of data, semi-structured data. Now, the last but not the least type of data structure would be unstructured data. Unstructured data. Unstructured data are data sets that there are no formats. They are basically for the likes of PDF, media, video files. There is no way, you cannot say you want to store them in probably rows and columns, or you want to store them in, you know, in a pattern. No, they are just stored in files. So would refer to them as what? Unstructured what? Data sets. All right. And so I hope you're gaining value. I hope if you're gaining value, kindly type on the chat box that you are gaining value. You are gaining value. All right. So moving on, the next thing we want to quickly look at is, sorry, the next thing we want to quickly look at is data management. Now, you have been able to understand that as a data analyst, you need to understand data structure. Now that you have structured the data, you have been able to store the data, you need to be able to manage this data. You need to be able to manage this data. And I have, in the next couple of slides, I have been able to, you know, using a guideline, I've been able to give you 7 golden rules of data management. Number 1 is you must have single row of headings for a structured data. Managing a structured data, you must have a single row of what? Headings. And if you can look at this data, you can see here all the regions are in one column, and you can see you just have one row here, one row of headings. This is the region, this is the store, this is the dates, this is the fiscal period, this is the model, this is the revenue, and this is the units sold. You don't have multiple, you know, heading row. No, you have one single row of headings. All right, and then the next thing you want to look at is the second row is no empty rows. No empty rows. If you look at this data set, you will see that row number 8 here is entirely empty. Now that is wrong. That is wrong, very wrong. You're going to have an issue. Now, if you try to analyze such data, whatever tool you're going to analyze is going to stop at the seventh row because of this empty row here, right? So you want to understand there should be no empty row, no empty row. And then the next rule is no empty columns, no empty columns. Sorry, at this point I need to ask, can you still hear me? Let me know if I'm just talking. Madam Queenette, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? I hope I've not been talking to myself. Oh my god. Is anybody at room? Can you hear me? Please, is anybody here to hear me? I just need to be sure I am audible. Oh my god. Okay, I guess. Okay. Alright. So yeah, the next rule here is no empty columns, and so the same explanation I gave for empty rows would work for um, empty columns. Will work for empty columns. Okay. So the next the next rule we want to see is all dates must be in a single column. All dates must be in a single column. All right. So you want a situation whereby everything you are doing, you can see if you look at this date, the one that has the good tick, the good tick, right? You would see that all the months are actually in a single column. So you have January, February, March, April, May. So if you want to continue, you can continue downward like that. Instead of having it on different columns like this, you can see on this one that has the bad mark, you have January, February, March on different columns. Now it will be easier for me to, um, analyze month by revenue. Okay, it will be very easy for me to do this in this manner. And then the next rule will be all columns must have unique data types. All columns must have unique data types. So if you look at this, what's it called? Um, this picture here, you would see that we had in the one that has the bad mark, you notice that there were every column had specific lines of business. For example, you have the service plan here, you have parts, you have copier sale. you know that would not work. If I want to try and analyze against probably a line of business, I would have to start picking all of these columns one by one. But no, that should not be the case. Now look at the next structure here. You see that line of business, we now have the service plan, you can see it here, the part, we have it here. So now it is easier for me to analyze line of business as against revenue. If I try to run a chart on this now, you would see that all the service plans, even if they're about 100, all of them would come in as one service plan. And so it's going to try and analyze them against the revenue. And that is how it ought to be, right? And so you want to be able to understand that all your columns must have unique data types, right? So on under revenue now, I don't want to be seeing anything that has to do with line of business. Rather, everything on revenue should be revenue. Now the next rule says there should be no totals or subtotals in your data set. Now remember, all of these things are what would take you to start making those decisions. You don't just make decisions without having to structure your data. You don't make decisions when you have not managed your data properly. Else you'll be making wrong decisions. Emphasis on wrong decisions. All right, you start you be having wrong decisions, and that's not what you want. So the next thing we'll be looking at, like I mentioned here, is no totals or subtotals. And so if you look at this data set now, we have total here, all right? And then when you try to analyze this data, there's something that's going to happen. Something bad. If I try to analyze this data, it's going to see this total as part of the revenue, whereby that's not the case. It's only simply a total value. And if I go ahead to analyze that like that, there will be error in this. Big error. Very big error. And that's not what you want. Okay? So, you want a situation whereby you are actually giving, right, proper data sets, proper data sets to your analysis. Okay? So, you don't want to have the totals in your file. You don't want to have totals in your file. Okay, so totals or subtotals, you don't want them anywhere around your data set where you want to start analyzing. All right, and then the next thing is no obstructions. There should be no obstructions around your data. Things like this, you can see you have some comments, little side comments here. No, you don't want that, because for example, if you're going to be using Excel to analyze your data, maybe you want to use pivot tables in Excel. All right, when you use pivot tables to try and pick this data set, what it is going to do is it is still going to pick this your comments as part of what it's supposed to analyze, and you don't want that, because it's going to be also, again, remember, the goal is to give what? Right decisions. You don't want to give wrong decisions. And so if your data analysis tool is picking these comments, it's picking these obstructions, of course you would be having what? Wrong decisions. All right, moving on. And so this is just a summary of all that we have said in the last couple of slides. Number one row of headings. Rule number 2, no empty columns. Rule number 3, no empty rows. Rule number 4, all dates must be in a single column. Rule number 5, every unique data must have its own column. And rule number 6, no totals or subtotals anywhere in your table. And then rule number 7, there should be no obstructions around your data. There should be no obstructions around your data. All right. And so I would love to ask some questions, but I don't know if I tried to get some feedback, but I'm not getting any at the moment, which is a bit heartbreaking. But if you can answer these questions, which of the rules do you think this data is actually this data set is actually breaking? Which of the rules do you think this data set is breaking? I'd appreciate if you can type on the group, on the chat box. If you can just type, it would mean a lot to me that you are actually following. All right. Okay, moving on. Now we have talked about data. We've talked about data literacy. What exactly is data analytics? And then what is data analysis? Remember, I said there are two different things. Data analytics is different from data analysis. All right? And so, in the next couple of slides, we're going to see what exactly does data analytics mean. What exactly does it mean? All right? And so, you want to see that data analytics actually refers to the process of first examining the data set. You're trying to draw conclusions about the information that data set actually contains. That is it. And so there is a process. There are processes of data analytics, which just explains what the definition I gave. The process of examining data sets, drawing conclusions about information that data set you have examined before, what they actually conclude, what they actually contain. All right. And so the first process in the data analytics process is defining the problem. What is that problem we want to analyze? That is the first process, defining the problem. And then you move on to data collection. Because for you to define that problem, for you to be able to answer that problem you have already defined, you need to collect data. That is where data generation comes to play. What we mentioned before, data generation. And then from data collection, we now move over to what? Cleaning the data. That is data structuring. That is data management. You have to clean the data, because now let me give a typical example of what I mean by cleaning the data. For example, you send out a form out, and then you tell people, please feel if you are a male or a female, male or female, right? Now, what happens is some person could go ahead to, oh, I'm a man. So the person goes ahead to what? Type man. Instead of you give an instruction, you who created the form, you said, please type in male. And then somebody goes ahead to what? Type man. Now, what that would do to your data set is it's going to distort your data a little bit. Because when you try to run an analysis, your tool is going to see that, oh, it looks like because somebody wrote man or somebody wrote woman, it's going to try and be picking that man and woman as another gender type. Whereby the only gender type, the only known gender type we have is what? Male and female. Okay? So you want to take note of that, right? And so the next thing we're looking at is data analysis. Now this is where data analysis now comes to play. This is where what? Data analysis comes to play. So data analysis is the technique that enables you to take that raw data you have collected, that raw data you have cleaned, that raw data that is now in your hand, the act of using that raw data to converting it to be able to uncover patterns, to extract valuable insights from it. You want to understand, okay, now that I have gotten this data set, I've been able to get all the data sets, I've cleaned it, I've collected, I've cleaned. Now, I want to begin to understand what exactly does this data contain? How do I make certain recommendations from these data sets? That is data analysis. So where you now start saying, oh, okay, people that filled this form is, oh, okay, about 70% of them were male, 30% were female. Oh, okay, 60% of them are Christians, 40% are Muslims. That is the act of data analysis. However, data analytics is the entire process from defining the problem, from collecting the data, from cleaning the data. Data analysis is also a part of data analytics. Now that you have done your analysis, you've been able to uncover patterns, you've been able to extract valuable insight. The next thing you want to do is you want to be able to tell stories, and that's where data visualization comes into play. You can now start using the likes of pie charts, the likes of histogram, the likes of bar chart, the likes of flow charts, and what have you. There are a plethora of charts you can make use of. Right? So these are, this is the entire process of the data analytics, flow chart. All right. And so moving on, why do businesses run data analytics? Why do businesses run data analytics? Why? First off, you want to find out what exactly is working. What exactly is this my business that I am running? What is working? You want to know what works. After you have found out what is working, the next question you want to ask yourself is, okay, now that I know what is working, what is not working? What is not working? Once you have answered these two questions, the next question you want to ask yourself is what should I focus on as a business? What should I focus on as a business? And so these are the major reasons why businesses run analysis. I'm going to cite an example. So, for example, you own a shop and you noticed that you sell three different types of milk. You just started your shop and you started out with three different types of selling three different types of milk. However, you notice that after 3 months of sales, people were only coming to buy milk A. People were not buying, people were just, going for milk B and milk C. Now, after 3 months, it's only wise for you as a business to actually run an analysis. Okay, what is working? Obviously, what is working amongst these three milk is what? Milk A. And what is not working is what? Milk B and milk C. So now the next question says, what should I focus on? Obviously, I don't expect you after you have gone through this, you have done your analysis. I don't expect you to now start using the same energy you will focus on milk A to start to share it with McB and McC, that will not be wise of you. And so that these are the basic reasons why businesses run what analysis. Okay? So if you've not gotten anything through the session tonight, please take home this. What is working, what is not working, and what should I what focus on? That is the major reason why businesses run analysis. Alright? And so I'm just going to run through this data analytics versus statistics. Statistics and data analytics are closely related, but they are not the same. Statistics tries to focus on the mathematical methods, while data analytics focuses on, yes, you have an idea of the statistical methods, but you are bringing a combination of statistical methods plus computational methods plus business tools to extract insights from data. All right. So statistics, yes, obviously is the foundation of data analytics. However, data analytics went a step further. While in elementary school, they would tell you about that the almighty formula. I'm sure you still remember that formula. But now you have tools that can, instead of you having to crack, your head on using that formula, you have tools that at the tip of the finger, you just need to push some buttons, and those answers are gotten in quick fix. So that is what data analytics has now come to what to fix. So data analytics is a broader method. It's using statistics plus tech skills to analyze, visualize, and act on data. All right. And so the next thing we'll quickly look at is the data analysis process. All right. So this just remember, we are going somewhere. The end goal is what? Decisions. We want to make decisions. So all of this, you don't just get data and look at the data and make decisions. No, you need to be able to develop a pipeline from data generation to data structure to data storage to data management to data analysis. All of these are what? In a structure, in a pipeline. All right. And so this is like the data analysis process. Data analysis is you trying to tell story with data. That is it. All right. And so what is the concept of data insights? Data insights are the knowledge that an individual or a company gains from analyzing sets of information pertaining to a given topic or situation. And the goal is it helps the business make informed decisions. There's a thin line between information or knowledge and data insight. Data information is just transactional. You're just telling people, oh, this is what the data is saying. However, insight from data, if derived correctly, it is transformational. It transforms the mind. It transforms whoever is trying to make that decision. And so your information from data is just telling summary of what is currently happening. However, insights goes ahead and it tries to answer certain questions as to why that thing is actually happening. Remember the illustration we gave, make A, make B, make C. And so, if you go further to ask questions to your customers and say, okay, what is the reason why you're not going for make B and make C? You will see that, oh, some persons will say, oh, okay, maybe make B, my child reacts to it, or I don't like it. Maybe it's not full milk, it's filled milk, and all of that. Now that information you have gotten, it now informs the business owner to say, oh, okay, from tomorrow I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to stop selling this particular, or probably I'm going to reduce the sales of make B and make C and focus more on make A. All right, now that is the power of data insight. And so insight helps us to derive tangible action items that we can employ to derive great business for financial value. All right. And so if you look at this picture here, you see this is the data. This is just the all I have tried to explain. From data generation, this is the data generation. This is data you collected. You generated the data, and then you tried to sort them. You sorted them. This is the black guy, this is the yellow, this is green, this is white. This, after you have sorted, you now arrange, you now manage the data, you now structure the data. Now, after you have structured the data, right, you now try to present it visually. You can see this now looks what neater. You try to use pie charts, you try to use bar charts. This is it. You're visually presenting your data. And then you go ahead to do what? You explain your data with a story. You are explaining whatever that data contains. You're trying to now convey it as a story. That is where insights comes to play. Data insights. That's where it comes to play. All right. And so that is all about that. The next thing we want to quickly look at is data tools for data insight. So for beginners, you want to start off with Excel, Google Sheets for data collection or ingestion, data forms, public domains, and all. And then for intermediate level, you want to go into advanced Excel, Power Query, pivot tables, and da da da. And then you want to also go into SQL language, Microsoft Access. And then for advanced, you want to start moving into API connectors, web scraping, database or data lake management, Python programming. And then for data analysis visualization for beginners, you can move into Excel or Google Sheets. That works perfectly fine, as a beginner. However, you need to move a step further to intermediate levels. And then you have the likes of the Excel, you have the likes of Google Sheets, you have the likes of Tableau, you have the likes of Power BI. All right, that's for intermediate level. And then if you want to go a step further, you have the likes of sorry, you have the likes of R programming, Python advanced analytics, and then machine learning. All right. So if you're looking to start off with any of these tools, I'm sure Goshema Hub, they have a perfect a perfect tool, a perfect guideline on how for you to start making use of these tools. All right. And so quickly we'll just look at, I'm just going to use a little illustration to explain all five of these tool I'm sorry, categories. And so you are you're a person. You have, say, you have um, um you feel unusual. All right, you wake up in the morning, you feel unusual, and then you decide to go to see the doctor. All right, and then you go, oh hey doctor, I don't know how I feel. I feel a little bit tipsy. I feel this way, I feel that way. All right, that is you trying to describe how you feel to the doctor. That is the simple definition of descriptive analytics. You are trying to describe what is contained in that data. And then when when you have spoken to the doctor now says, "Oh, okay, fine, no problem. We need you to probably go see, yeah, the lab scientists. Let them go and find out what is actually the root cause of your issue." All right, and then you go to the lab. They take your blood sample. They try to run a background test. They try to run series of tests, and then they now finds out, oh okay, this is the root cause. And then you now take, it's always advice, you now take that back to what, to the doctor. Now that's part of the lab scientist taking your blood sample, running series of tests. That act is called the diagnostic what, analytics. You're trying to run some diagnostic analysis, trying to find out what is the actual root cause of this issue. All right, and then when you have gone back to the doctor now starts advising you. Oh, I noticed this is going wrong with you. He tries to ask some questions. How do you sleep? Because I see you have a high dose of malaria. How do you sleep? How do you feel? And all of that. And then he goes ahead to say, oh, based on this, I noticed that if you go ahead like this, if you don't use a mosquito net, or if you still stay in somewhere that doesn't that is mosquito infested, you would still have mosquitoes. You still have mosquito, but you still have malaria. So he's trying to predict into the future that if you continue doing this and doing that, you would keep on having malaria. He has predicted into your future. But then he now says, okay, if we go ahead, I'm going to give you a routine note which you take to the pharmacy. And then the pharmacy now looks at it and says, oh, okay, fine. I'm going to give you some drugs. You're going to use this drug A, use drug B, use this, use that, use that. The pharmacist has tried to what? He's now prescribing drugs for you. He's trying to give you recommendations. All right? And so now, once he has done that, you now go, you take the drugs. That's if you decide to take the drugs. And when you're done with the drugs, you now get well. That is prescriptive. So prescriptive analytics has to do with what? Recommendations. You are proffering recommendations to a particular problem. That is prescriptive analytics. And then in recent times, with the advent of AI, we now have the cognitive analytics. So cognitive analytics has to do with, having all four that I have mentioned before: descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive. Having all four with a combination of the thought process, you know, of probably an AI, trying to use an AI to, mirror the thought process of human, to do actually all these four that we had mentioned: the descriptive, the diagnostic, the predictive. That's where you now start trying to write machine languages. You want the machine to be able to understand how the thought process of humans, so that it can actually run this analysis probably without the help of human. That is where cognitive analytics actually comes to play. All right. And so we're just going to move. I'll just skip all these slides because of time, because we had mentioned all of this. So, like I said, diagnostics digs deeper to find the root cause. Predictive, it tries to identify trends and determines if they are likely to occur in the future. And then prescriptive, it's just is a type of analytics that allows businesses to make informed decisions in the face of uncertainties, right? And so the next one the next one you want to look at is the cognitive, just like I had made mention. All right, it is combines artificial intelligence and data analytics to mimic human thought processes. All right, in analyzing complex data sets. All right, and so we are almost wrapping up. Right, what are the benefits of data analysis? Because of our time, I'm just going to speak on one of them, which is efficiency. All right, so for those of us who probably grew up in probably early 2000s, or I think they still do it now, when you go to the village, you see them trying to gather firewood, to cook probably maybe jollof rice or something. Now they use those gather those firewoods and try to put those fire, what's it called, the pot on fire and all of that. Now, is that method, has it been effective over the years? Yes, it has been effective. But now, in recent times, people have now developed rice cookers. All you need to do is just wash your rice, put in the rice cooker. In 10-15 minutes, it is done. It is cooked. Now, is it also effective? Yes, it is effective. However, is it efficient? Which of them is efficient among the two? Knowing fully well that efficiency has to do with respect to time, respect to ease. All right, and so you want to understand that yes, the firewood, as they would say, that firewood, rice that is cooked with firewood is usually sweeter. No doubt. I don't have any, anything against that. However, in respect to time, if you notice, the people who do that cooking, most times they are tired at the end of the day. They don't even get to eat almost immediately because they are tired. Is it effective? Yes. But is it efficient? No, it's not efficient. It takes longer time. It takes strength. But rice cooker, in splits in 15 minutes, you are done already. That is efficiency. All right. So that is what data analytics has come. That is one of the benefits of data analytics. All right. It has come to make work easier. It has come to make work with respect to time easier for everyone. It has come to make it efficient for everybody. All right. And so there are other benefits I may not, have the opportunity time because of time to explain better. You have increased accuracy, you have competitive advantage, you have also evidence based. All right, and so there are certain impacts. The impact: healthcare, it predicts disease outbreaks; retail, personalized shopping experiences; Netflix recommending shows, that has to do with behavioral data, of course, and then reducing hospital wait times. The benefits of data analytics, it actually helps you make those informed decisions. You know when to start working. You know when to start work. You know when to make things available for patients. All right, that's why when if you listen to the news, you see that people because of the newscaster, the forecast weather forecasters rather, they tell you, oh, tomorrow try to go out with your your umbrella because it's going to be a rainy day. Why? Because data analytics has come. It has helped you to see into the future, right? It has helped them to see into the future using past data set, help them to see into the future and predict that what by tomorrow, this time over the years, tomorrow, is going to be a rainy day, and that's why the weather forecasters, they come to tell you that, hey, you need to actually what start preparing. You need to get your umbrella. You need to get your or probably it's going to be a sunny day. So that is what the benefits of data analytics has done and is currently doing for us. All right, and so I'm just going to run through. These are some of the data roles in the data space. You have the business analyst, you have the data analyst, you have the data engineer, you have the data scientist, you have the database administrator. I really wish I could really delve into some of these, but I mean, you could just Google some of them. And they would be of good help to you. The next thing we want to look at: can I really thrive? In reality, the only most analysts use basic statistics plus tools, the likes of Excel, the likes of XL. You don't need a PhD or advanced maths. No, you don't. That myth of, oh, only coding experts succeed. No. Tools like Tableau, tools like Power BI, they just need minimal code. Just one here and one there. They're easy to use. Right? And then the myth of my background isn't a technical one. Can I thrive? No. Yes, you can thrive. Marketing, psychology, arts graduates, they excel in this too. If you don't know, myself, I'm also a graduate of human anatomy, but I'm doing so well in the data analytics field today. All right, and in fact, my first two degrees, they are not tech related at all. All right, and so you want to understand that you yourself, you can thrive. You can thrive. All right, and so the core skills, that I'd love to, just share with you is technical skills. You want to learn Excel, you want to learn SQL, you want to learn Power BI, Tableau, and maybe a little bit of Python or R basics. And then the kind of skill you also want to learn to business acumen. You want to be able to learn how to ask the right questions. You want to be able to understand industry goals, right? If you find yourself in the oil industry, you want to understand what does the oil industry want to achieve using data analytics. That is it. All right, and so you also want to learn some soft skills, storytelling, making data relatable. You can see our our classes, or sorry, all through the process of today's session, I've been using illustrations. I've been using illustrations to make it relatable to you. That is the act of storytelling. You should be able to have the soft skill of storytelling to ensure that your data is relatable. And then a soft skill called curiosity and critical thinking is very essential as a data analyst. All right, and so my advice for you is start with one tool. Mastery grows with practice. Don't try to figure all of them all at once. When I started with Excel. I started with Excel. In fact, when my colleagues, they were going into the likes of SQL, the likes of Power BI, I didn't join them. I said, this Excel, I must become a guru in it. And that was how it was Excel that actually made me known in the data analytics field. All right. So pick a tool, master it. Don't try to figure all of them at once. Okay. And so your roadmap, like I said, learn Excel, the basic SQL, build a Tableau or Power BI portfolio. You know, join communities. There are series of communities you can play around with on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Join all of those communities and try to be active in them. Try to be what active in them. Try to be active in those uh, communities. And then the last but not the least is what building what publicly, building publicly. All right. So you don't need certainty. All you just need is curiosity. Data analytics isn't a destination; it is a journey of growth. And if you love puzzles and impact, then this field is for you. This field is for you. So this brings us to the end of our class today. I'm very sorry I've overshot my time, Madam Queenette. I don't know if you are there. You can go ahead. Hello, Madam Queenette. Are you here?
Yes, yes, sir, I am.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Wow. I'm so excited and so inspired and spurred up with the session tonight. Thank you so much. I want to believe audience, those that have been following us, you have learned one or two, and then you are also fired up and you're feeling the same way I am feeling. Please, can I have a comment? What is that one thing that stood out for you? One of mine is you don't need certainty, all you need is curiosity. You don't need to know it all, you don't need to have it all figured out. All you need is to be certain. And another thing, data analysis is a journey. It's not a destination, is a journey. You just have to start with one two. Thank you once again. That was a very explosive session. I've been learning from you, and tonight it's in another dimension. Thank you so much. It's more like an eye opener, a reminder, a push to do more. Thank you. I really appreciate. Please, it's time for questions. If you have any question, you need to gain clarity in one thing that you heard tonight, or you've been hearing about data analysis and you don't know where to start, you don't know how to start. Please, the floor is open. We are going to be wrapping up this session in few minutes. Please, the floor is open. Let's ask our questions. You don't have this opportunity every day to be in the same room with a great mentor in the world of data analysis. I mean, if we were to pay for consultation, I can imagine the number of dollars that we'll have to pay just to have this time out with him. It's a privilege to have you with us, sir. Thank you so much. So please, let's seize this opportunity to ask our questions. If you need clarification, please do well to ask. Sir, please, can you drop your social media handles so our viewers can follow you on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on your platforms, so they can also have a glimpse of what you do and be inspired, like some of us. So, love to have your social media handles, if you don't mind, sir.
Okay, yeah, it's on. I've just showed you. You can see my screen. I'm sure you can see it.
Okay, okay, yes, sir. Um, yes. I just maximized it so we can take a screenshot. For that's his contact, his email address, and his the link to his social media pages. Thank you once again, sir. I think our viewers, they were as clear as, I mean, your session was as clear as, I mean, there it seems there are no questions. They got everything, and I also believe that persons that have gone through tonight's session are making a decision to explore the world of data analysis. If you have any question, if you need further clarification, the contact of our speaker is here on the screen. You can also reach out to me as well via Goshima Hub. And we are here to hold your hands to ensure that whatever you need in the world of data analysis, whatever clarification you need in the world of data analysis is given to you. We can hold you by the hands through the process. Like our speaker said, is a journey. It is not a destination. Okay, so if you're confused as a beginner, where do I start from? Our speaker has already made that clear to us. You start with the Excel tool, then you can now move up to the other ones. And then commitment is also important, consistency is also important. Show up in communities, volunteer, go for internship, build your skill, gain mastery. The path to being successful in the world of data analysis